All right, so that concludes the first three out of conference games and what was probably the most boring part of the season. But Penn State beat Villanova 52-6, making Penn State 3-0 on the season. From that score, you would think fans and everyone watching would be happy with the performance and feel confident going into the bye week and going on to Oregon. But if you watch the game, you'd know that isn't exactly the case, and that Penn State got off to yet another slow start, despite it being an underwhelming opponent. A lot of the offensive issues that I've been talking about in the past episodes are still a thing, and right now there's no flow to the offense. There's no rhythm, there's no swagger, there's no moxie, or whatever you want to call it. There's none of that going on with this offense right now. Before I dive into some of the negative side of things here, let's start off with some positives, because there are positives, so I want to make sure I discuss those as well. I don't want to come on here and just rant about Penn State the whole time. Kaytron Allen, he's picking up right where he left off after last season. He's playing faster, he's making guys miss at the second level and gaining extra yards, and overall, he's just playing super efficient. This offensive line, while still not perfect, they looked a lot better, and I know it was Villanova, but they didn't look great in the first two games, and those were also less talented opponents, and they've made obvious corrections and look a lot better, especially in the run game. There's still a lot of minor things to fix and work on, like Nolan Rucci in pass pros giving up too many pressures, and that's definitely something to continue to watch. But just overall, they're not a concern to me right now. They look much better. They're just taking some time to gel together and play as one. And we've seen obvious improvement week to week. At tight end, we saw Luke Reynolds start to come on big time for us. I speculate, and in my opinion, I see him as being a big piece of our offense this year in the passing game. Penn State's always relied heavily on its tight ends, and Luke Reynolds looks really good out there. He had 4 receptions for 73 yards, so on average, 18.3 yards per reception. Khalil Dinkins is super important as a blocker for us, and we've even seen him be able to make some plays when they throw the ball to him. But he had 0 receptions against Villanova, although I thought he made a really nice catch that they reviewed and said he was out of bounds. It looked in to me. Regardless, I have the feeling that Luke Reynolds is going to emerge as the guy at tight end. I think he has the chance to play a crucial role in the passing game, and so far it looks like Drew is pretty comfortable throwing him the ball as well. Let's not forget that he is young. He's a true sophomore. He did play last year, but obviously we had Tyler Warren as the focal point, so it was good experience for him, but this is his first year as really being somewhat of a focal point in the offense, especially in the receiving game, and I only expect him to continue getting better. At receiver, Trevor Pena had a pretty decent day with 4 receptions for 60 yards and a touchdown, and then additionally to that, he had 4 rushes for 33 yards, putting him at 93 all-purpose yards for this game. Not anything spectacular or amazing, but a very solid day, and he continues to look really good in open space, and he looks like he can make something happen when he has the ball. And I know that sounds funny because, yeah, D1 receivers should be able to make plays when they have the ball, but that's not something we've really seen the past few years, and he looks like he has it. The rest of the receivers were pretty quiet. The next highest receiver was Kyron Hudson with 3 receptions for 30 yards, but still, I think the receivers look a lot better, and I'm still very hopeful for them this year, and I think they're going to be really important for us. As we know, we're going to need them to be a balanced offense. There's just not much from these first 3 games that we have to work with, so let's shift and talk about the offense as a whole right now. Obviously, watching this game, the offense still started out sluggish. They started out slow, they didn't look in a rhythm, and Drew didn't look as he should again. I don't want to talk about Drew too much because I know a lot of people are talking about it, and if I'm being totally honest, yes, it's slightly concerning the way he's played, but I'm still hopeful. I've seen him play for the past few years now as Penn State's starting quarterback, and I think he's going to be fine. I don't know that he's going to take this massive step that we would all have liked and become this elite Heisman quarterback, but I think he's going to be fine in the long run. But yeah, even in this Villanova game, he didn't look great from the jump. He's still overthinking, he still doesn't look confident, and just needs to be better. Again, I don't want to talk about this too much because I've been talking about it and there's not much else to say, so we're just going to have to see it against Oregon. And there's definitely a few factors going into this. Through these first 3 games, we've called a very vanilla offense. The plays are simple, the route concepts are repetitive. Even for a team like Villanova, at a certain point, it gets predictable. So what does that tell us? Honestly, I really believe we're saving things. We're holding back certain looks, certain route concepts, certain wrinkles in this offense, and we're just not showing them yet. We don't need to be fancy or do anything crazy to beat FIU, Villanova, or Nevada. And I think when we play Oregon, the offense won't look 100% different, but it'll look noticeably different than it looks now. I think Kotelnicki will call the game in a way that'll favor how Drew plays a little bit better. I think that could finally help Drew get into a rhythm, get into a flow, and start building that confidence. Right now with this vanilla, boring offense, he looks like he's overthinking. He's trying to be perfect instead of just playing. Against Oregon, I expect Kotelnicki to call the game in a way that lets Drew play free and just lets him rip the ball. We saw in that 2-minute drill when Drew had that touchdown pass to Trevor Pena, he delivered a strike of a touchdown throw to Trevor. I mean, that was an amazing throw. And it's every time we're in that 2-minute offense where Drew doesn't have to think too much. It's very quick. He just goes, snaps the ball, still making reads, but just it happens so much faster and he just lets it rip. That's when he plays the best. When he has to think and almost overthink, he messes up. But yeah, to me, there's gotta be something else to this offense. I just have the feeling, I know there's something else behind there. I know Kotelnicki is a good coordinator. Here's the thing, if what we've seen is the offense in these first 3 games, and that's really all we've got, then it's going to be a long season, and not in a good way. But I don't believe that that's the case. And that's just based off the talent we have, the guys we have that have returned. I just don't believe that this is the whole offense. There has to be something more. Let's talk about Nick Singleton again. Similar to Drew, I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's another game where Singleton just hasn't looked like himself. Yeah, he had a better game than he's had so far this season, but still not a good game, and especially against Villanova. Against Villanova, he had 20 carries for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns, but let's be real, those touchdowns were basically gimmies right at the goal line. It wasn't like he broke off a big play or made a crazy move and made something happen. They're kind of giving him those touchdowns. If you watch the game, you know what I'm talking about. But the bigger issue, and something I've been saying, and a lot of people have been saying, he's still missing open running lanes. And as I said before, sometimes that makes the offensive line look like they maybe had bad blocking, but it was good blocking, and Singleton just didn't hit the hole. Nick played pretty much the entire first half. Like I said, he ended up with 20 carries. He averaged 4.2 yards per carry with a long of 14. Meanwhile, Kaytron didn't really get much action, and I actually don't think he played at all until the second half. And a big theory of that is the staff's trying to get Nick Singleton going. They just want to give him the ball and just see if he can gain confidence and make something happen. Similar to Drew, I think Nick will eventually turn it back on, and hopefully that's against Oregon. We've seen what Nick Singleton can be. I still think Kaytron has better vision, but we know Nick's not a bad running back. He's not as bad as he's looked these first few weeks. It is a slight positive that he looked a little better against Villanova, but at the same time, it's Villanova. You should look good. And it's not like he looked that good. I mean, he had 84 yards on 20 carries. So yeah, it's something to keep monitoring. I'm not freaking out about it. This is his 4th year. I know who he is as a player. I know he can be better than what we're seeing right now. Hopefully Oregon is the game where he finally flips that switch, because we're going to need him. And then switching over to the defense, I mean, in pretty much every video I've made, I haven't had to talk too much about them just because they've looked good. This is exactly how they should look against these first 3 teams. So I'm not going to praise them too much, but they've done their job, and I can feel good and feel confident about them going into Oregon. Jim Knowles has faced Oregon's offensive coordinator multiple times. He knows what he's going to be seeing. Chaz Coleman continues to impress as a freshman. The cornerbacks overall still look good, still pretty untested, but if you're a corner and you're not getting targeted much, it usually means the QB doesn't want to throw your way, and when they do test them, they're making plays. Tony Rojas has been looking really good this year. Amari Campbell led the team with 7 solo tackles and had 3 tackles for loss against Villanova. It was a cool moment seeing true freshman Jameer Joseph get in late and grab that pick 6. King Mack is out there now as a starter, took that starting spot over from Belgrave Shorter, and he's really starting to come into his own. I mean, it's early on in the season, but he looks good, honestly. And you got Dejon Lane, Zakee Wheatley, and the whole defense is just looking solid. So defense through these first 3 games, not much more to say. They look good. They look like how we expect them to look. And then quickly, special teams looks really good this year. We've seen Ryan Barker a little bit too much, but nonetheless, he has been amazing. He's made every single field goal and every extra point except for 1, and that was a 53-yard field goal that got blocked, which was not on him. So he's looked great. Punting has looked great. Kickoffs are going to be fine. And then punt and kick returns look a lot more explosive than last year. It's a small part of the game, but it can be very impactful. I really would have liked to come out of that Villanova game feeling confident, seeing a dominant win where the offense looked like a pretty well-oiled machine, everything firing on all cylinders, but it didn't look like that. And because of that, I'm not 100% confident going into Oregon. There's still a lot this offense needs to work on. Again, for the team's sake, I really hope we've just been holding some stuff back. I know Andy Kotelnicki is a better offensive coordinator than what we've seen. I know Drew is better, and I know this offense as a whole is better than how they've looked. And I wouldn't be shocked at all if they come out against Oregon and just look completely different. Not schematically completely different, but just sharper, more explosive, and like a legit offense, which they haven't looked like that this year. Honestly, as Penn State fans, let's just enjoy this bye week. I'll have an Oregon preview video coming out soon, either Monday or Tuesday after Oregon plays this weekend, so we'll have more info on them. In that one, we'll talk predictions, we'll talk a little bit about matchups, and then what Penn State needs to do to beat Oregon, and overall just feelings and thoughts going into that game. But bottom line, that preseason, if we want to call it that, is now over. It's time to really play, and it's starting off hot with a whiteout against Oregon at Beaver Stadium. This is going to set the tone for the rest of the season. Obviously, there's a lot more football after this, but this is one of those games that people will talk about all year, win or lose. And come playoff time, when seeding gets discussed, outside of that Ohio State game we have, this is the biggest game on the schedule. And this is the game that people are going to be pointing to when it comes time for seeding and really just ranking Penn State and talking about who Penn State is as a team this year. As I mentioned, my Penn State versus Oregon preview is coming soon. Please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate all the support. And let me know in the comments what you think is going on with this offense and what do you think they need to do to beat Oregon.